as we know now, modern DuckTales had its epilogue, and we got a podcast series entitled This Duckburg Life as a small treat. The short program ran for 7 episodes, and you can find a link to the podcasts in the description below. Me, I'll be ranking all these episodes from weakest to strongest, and my list is likely to be different from yours, so if your favorite is low on this list, it probably means you enjoyed it a lot more than I did, which I can appreciate. Oh, and spoiler alert, I guess. Feels weird doing it here, but better safe than sorry, right? Regardless, you better hold on to your tails, because I'm glossing over the foremost focal points now. Hey, I'm Owen, the fiction fanboy, and here are the top 7 This Duckburg Life episodes. Louie sells out. Before I dive in, this one isn't necessarily dreadful, I just like the others better. With that said, let's get into why this is my least favorite of the bunch. Huey has been meaning to inform us on the bark beetle in a book consisting of 23 chapters, but Louie selfishly decided to turn the show upside down by having a lot more ads than usual. The first handful of ads, Funzo's, Ottoman Empire, and Gyro, were fine. However, not only does Huey have to keep skipping segments due to lengthy commercials, bad guys like Glomgold, the Beagle Boys, and Flippin' Mark Beaks were involved. Louie certainly needed to think clearer, and maybe compromise with Huey so they both can get what they want. This is like tuning into songs during long rides only to get "for the money" ads in the middle of your jam. Poor Bark Beetle. Could have learned more about you, fella. Out to lunch. And we're at the more normal podcasts now. And by normal, I mean in DuckTales standards, not normal. Speaking of that term, Launchpad is doing his usual drive, going the wrong way first, hitting stop signs, and ordering the same food from Burrito Bucket. To much of a surprise, the driver's favorite fast food joint is replaced with a new restaurant called Sushi Shenanigans, and panicked. He does return to try the place's items out. Sal then gives Launchpad chow off menu, along with tips about his driving, the former of which gets Sal fired. Luckily, Sal was practically able to take Launchpad's advice by starting his own food service in a truck. Along the way, Louie has his ads of getting folk to be lazy, thinking his ideas will work. Launchpad and Sal learn to spice things up, in what they eat and what they do in life, and that's quite delish on both ends. Razortron 3000. You ever wanted to have minds read? Well, Gyro has made a new gizmo for that, and he was able to try it on Mrs. Beagle, revealing her status of Agent 22. Launchpad was immune because he's an airhead who barely thinks. Glomgold secretly sees his rival as his idol. Scrooge was able to not reveal his total amount of moolah in his bin, and when Huey is the next test subject, it detects his stink. Unfortunately, things got more downhill as the device was sick of her job, renamed herself Claratron, and was able to control Huey's body, wanting to combine herself with him for world domination. During the intermissions, Dewey promotes Lights Camera Dewey, where talents revolve around him. Gotta say, Gyro almost had a great achievement that didn't turn evil. If Huey didn't clear his head, Clara Huey would become the new podcast host, and that wouldn't be good for us to hear. Adventure Calls. This is where it all began. First, we get details on Launchpad's answering machine, and Dewey and Louie got kicked out of Funzo's just in time for the Beagle Boys to kidnap them. The felonious family does ransom business. Louie obtains the Hand of Hammurabi, basically the Infinity Gauntlet for ducks with no Power Stone. He and Dewey are transported to a dimension with a ping pong tournament in the Den of Thieves, and the thieves were angry. The breaks we get focus on Webby's petting zoo full of mythic creatures from the television series. Going back to the story, Dewey and Louie end up in a white void giving them powers, facing some sort of worm thing, and even get to go back home with the power of one wish being granted. Despite this one being in the dead center of the list, it was a great way to start a podcast about Disney's iconic young adventurers. The framing of Flintheart Glomgold. Scrooge has opened up his new water park at the pier, and the day is ruined because of drones dropping in hundreds of leopard sharks. All fingers had been pointed to Flintheart. He was immediately found guilty in court, and the villain is blabbing on how he didn't do it. Huey has been asked to investigate who really attacked the park, and the case leads to more and more unexpected discoveries. Unlike other episodes, we get two different ads from two different characters, one being Louie asking the citizens to donate cars to him personally, and another with Webby having mail delivered via a monkey. Even when Huey felt like he has wasted his time trying to prove an enemy innocent, evidence proving someone framed the bagpiping billionaire has been shown again. Mark Beeks was the real culprit. Glomgold got put back in prison for a crime he actually did, and all's well that ends well, until Magica Dispel claimed she was accused of a demon incident. Quite a huge jaunt to follow. Beagle Day. Louie was robbed by a beagle, and the trinket that was stolen was none other than Scrooge's top hat. It's imperative to get it right back, for inside said hat was the deed to Duckburg. Webby and Louie may have a really rough time reclaiming the contract, because it's Beagle Day, where the gang spends the day doing festivities about their hatred for Scrooge. The goody two-shoe ducks took a beagle costume to disguise themselves and had tiny mics so Huey could hear the situation we wanted to hear. Throughout the mission, the sponsor is Featherfest, hosted by Mark Beeks. Tickets cost 10 grand, has an A-list of pop stars, and his lack of consideration for the weather leads to him needing $10 million to bail from jail. Back to the exciting part, the Ducks and Beagles race to get the deed. Ducks have won. Baxter tried stealing the podcast equipment only for Webby to get it back. I loved Webby's accent changes the whole way through, and it was a worthwhile closer. Alas, let's reveal my, obviously, favorite episode pronto. Ghost Library. In this frequently frightening fable, Scrooge, Dewey, Webby, and Launchpad are witnessing the Ghost Library that only appears every century for 13 minutes, and have 12 to retrieve a map to the greatest treasure in the world. They can't talk real loud though, because if their volume is higher than a whisper, they'll be banished from the book repository, and Launchpad broke that rule with his first words. And with the help of the final rule, Scrooge was able to envision an imaginary map to the treasure he sought. Miss Quackfaster joins Huey in the podcast to warn about the dangers of the libraries. Apparently, it's not the Ghost Library alone to worry about, since all libraries are capable of tricking, trapping, and stealing souls. For ads, Gyro has more gadgets that backfire one at a time. Dewey and Scrooge get eliminated from the hunt thanks to ghouly voices and attacks from paper objects. Webby had to follow the rules solo and was able to grab the artifact. Nevertheless, one obstacle remained: Ferdinand Magellan. The girl cleverly escaped by purposefully yelling, And the map was the map to Scrooge's Money Bin. Man, that surely was a compelling adventure, meaning I can comfortably say this is the best kind of expedition in audio form. Feel free to let go of your tails now. Want more fiction? Then please do what my friends say, comment below, and follow me on Instagram for thumbnail previews and teasers for upcoming YouTube videos. Fiction Fanboy has finished this video. Everyone keep fantasizing, and good night-o!